Mr Chairman.
The Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Chairman, I just want to pick up on the comments of the last speaker. What this bill does under clause 3 to 6, it allows a person to withdraw their tax credits. Those tax credits are about $10 a week. $10 a week, sir, under this bill, clause, I think, 4 or 5. So $10 a week goes to the prospective home buyer, and at the same time in Auckland, house prices each week are going up by $1,700. So $1,700 a week in the increase in house prices, and this bill benevolently allows a person to use $10 a week of their own money to bridge that gap. The gap isn't bridged, sir. The gap gets wider and wider, which is why instead of 75%, 3/4 of Auckland is owning their own homes. Today it's 61% and falling. And the fundamental problem with this bill, sir, is that it doesn't go far enough. The changes made in clauses 3, 4, 5 and 6 do not make a real difference to the dilemma that a person faces in Auckland wanting to buy their own home. Home ownership is dropping. It's becoming harder for people to buy their own home, and this bill, far from helping people to do that, if we look at the Treasury commentary on this bill, it says, and I quote, sir, that this will actually, the government will end up undermining affordability for first home buyers. That's what Cabinet was told by Treasury to the member who's resumed his, Mr Ross. That's what Treasury told the Cabinet was going to be the result of the clauses that we're now debating. Will it make it easier, as the member just claimed? No, according to the financial advisors of the government, it will make affordability harder for first home buyers. It will undermine them, and it will undermine them because when you put more money in and increase demand but you don't increase supply, all that happens is the prices go up and home ownership moves further and further from the grasp of the people who desperately want a home of their own. But I want to come back to the other part of this bill, sir, from clauses 8 on, that are addressed in the title of this bill when it says Remedial Matters Bill, because we're told that this part of the bill is a result of a colossal stuff-up that the government has made in what it promised veterans in the Veterans Support Act. And an hour ago, sir, I asked the Minister and the Chair for answers on specific questions that this House is entitled to. And the Minister has not yet taken a call, despite the fact that notes have passed from officials to the Minister. I think this House is entitled to answers to these questions. Firstly, why did the government make the error that promised that the veterans would get the gross amount of the money paid for them, when in fact they're only going to get the net amount? That cuts, for some veterans, their income expectations by 1/3. How could have the government made a mistake of that dimension? Secondly, when did they discover when that mistake was made, and what did they do to communicate to the veterans and the organisation representing veterans, the RSA, that the mistake was made? Because when I spoke to the RSA this afternoon, they didn't even know this bill was before the House. They did not know this bill was before the House. Next question, sir. Having made that error, how much money, if any, has been paid out wrongly under the Veterans Support Act that this bill seeks to correct, and to how many veterans? Will this bill be retrospective? Will people be required to pay money? I don't know the answers to that question. Minister, you have access to advice that can give us those answers. But our veterans surely deserve, first of all, an explanation, secondly, an apology for government for getting it so wrong, and thirdly, some advice about if they have been paid more money than they will now be entitled to, will that money that they've been paid be required to be paid back? They're simple questions. The Minister knows the answers to those questions, and I'm asking the Minister to take the time in this House, which is why we have a committee of the whole, to answer the questions that members genuinely have about this. Because she knows that under the Veterans Support Act, the payments were not to be taxable. Now we find, Mr. Chairman,
the Honourable Phil Goff.
Now we find under this legislation that the payments being made to them are going to be taxable. That makes a huge difference into the money actually received in the hands of the veterans. And to add insults to injury, this bill also further takes off veterans in a couple of different ways. It reduces their working for family entitlements. It reduces their working for family entitlements. Why is it, when this bill has been debated twice before this House, no minister has got up and told the House what the bill does and how veterans are affected to the detriment by having their entitlements promised in the original legislation now taken away? I accept it was a mistake by government. It doesn't make it any easier for the veteran that believed that they were going to be paid at this level to find that now they may be getting a quarter or a third less. It doesn't make it easier for the veteran that loses his or her entitlement to their working for family entitlements. And it doesn't make it easier for the veterans who now find that their obligations in regard to student fees and child support have gone up. So the veterans under this remedial bill are being caught in a double whammy. The actual money they receive in their hands goes down from what the original Veterans Support Act did, and their obligations to pay out money for a whole series of social obligations goes up. So you'd think, Mr. Chairman, that a government would at least give the House and the veterans and the RSA the courtesy of an explanation as to how this happened. You would think that there might just be an apology by the government for making an error of this magnitude, and you might think that we could get an explanation as to whether any money has been paid out to veterans, if so, how much and to how many, and whether that money will be required to be paid back. Now, I haven't finished my speaking entitlement, Mr. Chairman, but I'm going to sit down now to give the Minister the opportunity to answer those straightforward questions.